Let's talk about why your child talks to strangers online and what to do about it. I needed to drink some water before I started because, like, I'm coming from this conversation from two different points of view. Number one, someone who has been online since I was 13 years old. I first started playing online games, so I went into like chats and I talked to strangers, whether it was gaming, whether it was like random chats online. I would do forums. Like I would call myself like the chat queen. I love chatting. I was able to like type super fast after a while because I was always typing. So I'm coming from that point of view. But then I'm also coming from the point of view of someone who's worked in cybersecurity, someone who's seen the behind the scenes, and then also somebody who works with parents like you to talk about protecting your kids online and have talked to teenagers around the world and have been a teenager before, okay, in the online space. So we're going to look at it from those point of views. And then I also wanted to look at some like Reddit, it's not Reddit stories. There's only like two Reddit threads that I thought, you know what? This would be kind of cool to go read it together. One is from a point of view from a child, and then the second is a point of view. This is like a child, I think she's like 14 years old. So she's a young adult. She's like in her teenage years where you're getting into that point where you kind of want to rebel a little bit sometimes. And so it's from their point of view. And then we're going to go into the point of view of a parent whose child, I believe they're 12 years old. They were talking to strangers online. And then we're going to get a lot of different point of views. We're going to go into some research studies to give you an idea of why kids like to talk to strangers online, why humans like to connect with other people, and then what you can do about it to protect your child from people that are preying on your children. That is our entire discussion today. Hang on tight. If you have any questions, ask them. If you're seeing this a little bit later and you're in the replay, put in the comments below whatever questions, thoughts, opinions you have, and I'll respond to it as soon as possible. Welcome to the Protect Kids Online live stream. I'm CyberFareedah. I have a background in cybersecurity awareness, threat intelligence, online gaming, and other nerdy stuff. I've taken my gaming experiences and professional background to help parents like you protect their children online. I'm known as an award-winning Forbes 30 Under 30 internet safety expert, and I've been in some places on the internet and beyond that you may recognize. So without further ado, let's talk. 3, 2, 1. All right, let me share my screen with the first thing that I found, which I thought was like, ooh, this is great. So the first one is a teen who says their unpopular opinion is that parents should allow their kids to talk to strangers online. And let me make this a little bit bigger so that we can actually see what's going on. So they said, hey, I'm 14, so clearly I don't know much, but when parents get upset for talking with strangers, I think it's ridiculous. So most likely when you're having that talk with your child about don't talk to strangers online, most likely they are going to think that it is ridiculous. I remember when my mother sat down with me and said, hey, you're getting on the internet for the first time. You're on these online games. Do not talk to strangers. Do not talk to guys. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing she's ever said to me. Bless her heart. She's very, very smart. She's amazing. But I was like, I'm not listening to you. This is absolutely ridiculous. So I absolutely agree. When I was 14, when I was 13, I was actually 13. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. Why did I think that? Well, I was playing online games. And in order to play the online games that I was playing, it required strategy. It required me to talk to my other teammates in order for us to get the job done. So you can't have a group project and then people are not communicating. So for me, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. There are going to be YouTube comments. I might like it. I may say something. I might laugh. I wasn't really on YouTube at that time, but I was on these like mobile online games, just started to come out. I was like, yep, this is amazing. Let's get on to it. And so her notion of me not talking to anyone, and she's in particular said, not to talk to men, not to talk to boys. I was like, well, how would I know how they identify? They could be lying. And what does it matter? We're just trying to play this game. So it felt absolutely ridiculous. And to a lot of teens that I talked to, and to a lot of teens in general, it may feel ridiculous. For some teens, they felt like, you know what? Yeah, my parents have a point. I'm just going to talk to the people that I know, the people from school, our family members, friends, that type of stuff. But for a lot of teens, it feels ridiculous. And so they talk to them for many different reasons. That was the reason why I did. Let's see why they did. So they said, no, they are not trying to fry your brain. 99.9% of the time, they're just another lonely 4-year-old trying to enjoy their evening. I mean, obviously they're 14. This is 3 years ago, so they're not 14 anymore. But like, it obviously the statistic of that's not really a statistic, that's just your emotions. It's not always going to be another 14-year-old, but most of the time it does go into the point of your child, they're talking to another person, whether they're another child or someone who's a little bit older, but they're not thinking that this is going to be someone who's preying on them or someone who's grooming them. So instead of giving a blanket statement where it's like, do not talk to strangers, define what a not a good interaction that's not good is. And there's actually a thing that I want to share. It's from Love 146. I'm getting into it right now. And they have a whole checklist of teaching your kids what are the red flags when you're talking to someone. If they say something, what are certain red flags that your child should look out for when they're talking to them? And so we'll go into that. And that's one thing that you do want to tell your kids. Like, okay, when you're talking to people, right? If you hear them or see them or whatever, they say something, this is not good. And this could lead to this. And then that gives your child a little bit more context. But when you say something like very blanket, like don't talk to strangers or don't talk to people that you don't know, don't tell the stories to people you don't know, it's too broad, it's too wide, it sounds ridiculous, and they're not going to listen to you. So what they said right here, emotionally is correct. They're 14. Emotionally is correct. I'm just letting you understand what they're thinking and then what the actual truth is. So I'm going to share that checklist. I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to also put in the comments. If I forget, just let me know, so that you have that checklist so you can talk to your kids and be like, instead of saying don't talk to them, you give them an actual thing. Okay. So they go on to say, I don't know why I said girl. This teen says, I'm saying this because of quarantine. Oh, yeah, that's right. Quarantine was 3 years ago. Oh my God, can you imagine? Okay, I'm saying this because of quarantine. I've lost contact with pretty much all of my school friends, but have become friends with a lot of people online that I play games with. Okay, so this is another really important point. A lot of times your kids are talking to strangers online as a form of connection. So maybe they are on the game at a particular point and their friend is not on. So they're talking to them just to chat it up or to ask a question or to do something, whatever the reason is. They're doing it as a form of connection, as a form of belonging, as a form of community, like we all have. There are so many, I'm sure there are many Instagram pages you're following, many Facebook groups that you're in, that you get a sense of belonging in community. The only difference is you're an adult and your prefrontal cortex is more developed. And so it's a completely different scenario. But understanding why they do it and connecting with them through that. So when you're having the conversations with them, you're not like, don't do this, don't do that. You're coming from a point of, I get that you want to connect with other people. I get that you're probably going to talk to someone because you want to feel, you don't have to say like a sense of belonging, but you could say like, you just want to chat with somebody. You want to become friends. You want to do this or that. It's a completely normal thing to want to do. Here, it's what I want you to do to approach a situation. That's a better way to do that and not shutting them down. The more that you're able to understand why they chat with strangers or why they want to do a particular thing, the more impactful your conversations can become. Okay. They said they really have helped me get through quarantine. Again, people that you meet online or offline can be a sense of connection. It can be a sense of healing. It could feel like a sense of friendship, and it could actually be real. So what happens online is not just like, oh, this is not real. If you tell your child your friend that you met online is not real, then you're not validating their feelings. And when you invalidate your child's feelings about who they're talking to online, they're going to shut down. And when your child shuts down, they're not going to talk to you. And when they don't talk to you, you're not going to know things. And when you don't know things, you're going to be in the dark about things you need to actually know. And when they feel like they cannot talk to you and they're going to shut down, even if you block their access, they're going to go in a different way. They're going to become more stinky, and they're going to start talking to other strangers online about how they're so annoyed about my parent wanting to protect me. Now, you are trying to protect them because you love them, but they're not processing that way. They're processing, you don't believe that my feelings are valid. The people that I'm talking to, you don't believe they're real. It's like you're saying that their best friend is like a ghost. It's like a make-believe thing, right? You're in your brain, you're coming from the right point of view. Obviously, you're trying to protect your child from being groomed online, but they're not understanding that. All they understand is that this very real interaction that I had, this very real conversation I had means nothing to my parent. And so therefore they don't care about me. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to other people that care about me. And chances are, I'm not going to do this, the random statistic, but chances are they're going to come across somebody who's very, very interested that they're mad at their parents, who's very, very interested that they know that they can't talk to their parents. And they're going to be, you know what? They're going to say, you know what? I know that your parents are pissed at you. That sounds really horrible. Oh my God. Like my parents are like that when I was younger too. That's so crazy. Let's talk about this a little bit more. And then they start talking about things that are absolutely inappropriate. They might start asking questions. They might start getting into things that you don't want them to get into with a stranger online. And then that's when the interaction starts to become a little bit more, becomes something that you don't want to happen, essentially. But if you're connecting with your child, you're validating their emotions, you're validating that the people that they're talking to are their friends, right? I know that you met some friends online, and it's like so awesome to meet new people from different backgrounds. Here are certain things that if someone says, again, we're going to go into that checklist later. If someone says this, just be careful because that could mean this, this, and that. And let's talk about it. That means that they feel more open to talk to you next time something happens. But if you invalidate what they're going through, they're going to stop talking to you and they're going to move closer to that predator that talks to them. Most of the time, when your child is talking to someone who's preying on them or grooming them, the biggest thing they say is that they listened to me. They made me feel important. They made me feel wanted. Right? They made me feel like I was enough. They made me feel like I wasn't weird. They made me feel whole. They made me feel happy. And so you want to do that for your kids. So your kid is not running along with somebody else doing that with some random person. I'm not saying that your child, if you talk to them, they will not connect with other people. I'm saying that you're better protecting them from like predatory behavior. Okay. They said, I don't know why I keep saying she. They said they even helped me with my math homework when I needed it. And yeah, there's like tons of sites, some like tutoring things, people who like randomly help with your homework. I remember when I was playing online games, I would like work through certain personal problems I was having with the people I was playing games with. We would be like what we call like grinding in games, where essentially you're doing a task for a very long time and you're there for hours. And so we would just chat about whatever. And they would help me work through certain issues. Maybe someone was like the top math student in their class, either at that moment, or they were like 35 years old and they happened to be someone who's like a mathematician or whatever, or they're like a super nerd in math. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, this is how you do that, etc. So those are very real interactions. What happens online is very real. So this 14-year-old says, don't train your kid not to talk to strangers. I agree. But teach them how to deal with malicious strangers. This right here is gold. What this 14-year-old said, I agree with this line. Don't do this. Tell them how to deal with it. And that's what we'll talk about today. I'm not going to just tell you, don't tell your kids not talk to strangers. I will also tell you, how do you deal with those difficult conversations and how do you help them deal with malicious strangers? So I'm also going to teach what I preach. No, preach what I, no, I don't know. What is it? Live? I don't know. Whatever. Basically, I'm telling you to do something. I'm going to do the same. Okay. So they said, I met one weirdo in my time 2 years ago. I recognize his odd talking and block them. That's amazing. So here they had a feeling of uncomfortableness. They did not like it. And so teaching your kid that you have control over who you interact with, and you don't have to be nice for the sake of being nice. You can be kind to yourself and you can block somebody. You can stop talking to someone if they feel odd immediately, but also teach your kid that sometimes it's not just like a random weird person in the beginning. Sometimes someone feels like your friend in the beginning and you have great conversation, and then all of a sudden the tone changes. Teach them that it's still okay to, especially this moment, to back away and to block them. You can either say, hey, look, blah, blah, blah. You could have a little whole spiel that they say where this is why you're going away. You don't really owe someone something, but because that was their friend and they built up this connection, they may feel like they have to do the breakup friend text of like, hey, I no longer want to talk. I'm really busy. I'm not in the space right now to talk to anybody. I'm taking a step back. Then you can delete them and block them. Teach your kids to do something like that. Okay. Knowing how to look for malicious strangers is better than avoiding them, which is true because honestly, you can't really 100% avoid them. There's some other things. I don't know if I'm going to go into all of this because there's a lot that I want to cover today, but this is the full thread. I will copy it if you want to. And if you want to have this conversation with your kids, feel free to take some of the things we go through. This is why I give you the links that I'm like talking about, is because if you want to have this conversation with your teen, you can pull up this Reddit thread and say, hey, like I came across this Reddit thread and it was this 14-year-old saying that parents like should allow their kids to talk to strangers online. I want to read it with you and I want to know what you think about it. Like, do you agree with them? Do you disagree? Read the comments together, form a discussion, form an opinion, and have those conversations ongoing. I guess I could skim to see what other people are saying, but oh, okay. So I just skimmed this comment. They said, although it isn't exactly relevant to your situation, perhaps you should watch the show Catfish on Stan. I don't know. Yeah. Catfish is a really good show to watch with your teens if they are talking to strangers online. I'm glad I skimmed that comment. Catfish is a show that basically is very entertaining, but also very scary, but also very interesting. And so if you want to have these conversations with your kids, I suggest looking at Catfish. There are some episodes on YouTube. If you have Amazon, I'm pretty sure it might be on Amazon. I don't really know. I'm not going to look it up right now, but Google Catfish TV show and you should see it. I believe it's like the American MTV. I think that's what it's on. But essentially what Catfish is, it shows you people who catfish other people. So they say they're one person, but they actually end up being somebody else. And so let's just say your child meets a friend online. Typically, it's a romantic catfish show where they're impersonating someone or they're saying they're somebody else. But sometimes it is a friend thing where someone has been friends with someone online for 11, 15, 20 years, 5 years, 3 years. And that person wants to meet them online and meet them offline. And they end up being someone who is like, yeah, a scammer, an impersonator, or someone crazy, or someone who's out to get them, or someone who just wants to play a different life because they're miserable and depressed and sad, right? So that's the TV show. It's really great. I suggest you watch a couple episodes and then watch it with your kids and have that be a point of discussion. So I like that. I am going to skim. Okay, so another person says, well, when I was 12, a guy on Facebook called me to go to his home. I showed that to my father, and his email account on Gmail had a full photo of a grown man. Yeah, that will absolutely happen. But what happened there, they felt okay to talk to their parents. And that's what you need. You need a relationship with your kid is like, hey, mom, hey, dad, this crazy thing happened. Can you believe it? And you have to practice the 3 C's. You got to be cool, you got to be calm, you got to be collected. You can't be like, oh my god, what, this is why I don't want you to be online. No, just be like, oh wow, that is absolutely crazy. Oh my god, I'm so glad that didn't happen. Thank you so much for letting me know. I really appreciate you. Don't take away their devices, don't do anything like that. Just lean into them, have those conversations, be good. Someone else says, I understand feeling like parents are too wary of strangers online. That's true. I always felt that way with my mom, but it's for a good reason. Exactly. It's for a good reason. Maybe you're smarter than I was, but I was insecure and naive when I was younger. So I got into strangers with a lot of creeps. I didn't even realize the full implications of it all until later. So, yes, another reason why a lot of kids, and they're very wise, obviously, that talk to strangers online is because they're naive or they're depressed or they just want friendship or they just want connection. Sometimes it's not something so freaking dramatic, but sometimes it's just a normal growing up. Like there's so many adults walking around this world that are naive, that are insecure, that are not in a good place. Most people are. And so you end up feeling a certain type of way towards different people because of that. Yeah, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but anyways, there's a whole thing over here. We're not going to go into that. There is another one that I want to share, and this is actually not from Reddit. This is from Quora. Why? I never know how to pronounce this thing. It just leave me alone. I never know how to pronounce this. I've been itching it for this long, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyways, so this is from a parent's point of view. They have a 12-year-old child, and they said, my child spoke to a stranger online about a video game. Should I be worried about this? And they had some pretty interesting responses, and I'm going to read some of it from parents' point of view. Okay. So, okay, so this is it. Chris is just annoying. Okay, so they said probably nothing to worry about. My 13-year-old son plays games online with strangers, and in the course of the game, they either speak or type to each other. However, my son knows all the safety rules regarding internet conversations with strangers, which is very, very important. So, talking to strangers online in of itself, your kids doing that is not a red flag. Like, it's not a red flag if your child is just talking to somebody online. What's a red flag is if do they know the safety precautions? Have you had the talk? Do they feel safe enough? Meaning your child feels safe enough to talk to you. Do you have an open relationship? So just because they opened up a chat with someone isn't the red flag. It is a caution. It's like a yellow. It's like a slow down. Let's see what happens. So there's like we have the traffic light system, right? There's red and there's yellow and then there's green. It's not a green light if your child is talking to a stranger online, but it's also not a red light if your child is talking to a stranger online. It's just a yellow. It's a slow down, pause, have a conversation, let's figure this out, etc., etc. Don't act red light, act yellow light. All right. This is a yellow thing. It's not a red thing. Okay. He doesn't discuss any personal matters, only gameplay. That's very important. You also should define what is a personal matter, because sometimes when your child is talking to someone online, the personal matter may be like, I don't know. It could be that, yeah, I don't really like my teacher. That a personal matter, or is that a red flag thing to say, or is that a good thing? Is that okay? So define what is not okay to talk to a stranger online about. Whether just define it, what your family wants it to be. And also personal matters could be something that's like personal information, like don't tell them exactly where you live. Now, when it comes to like not having your kids understand not to tell someone where exactly they live, I'm going to give this caveat really quickly, and then we're going to go back into that whole thread. The reason why I'm giving this is because gamers in particular, I'm not talking about your kids who are on social media, on TikTok, on Snapchat, on whatever. I'm talking about gamers in particular as a fellow gamer. One big reason why a lot of gamers tell other gamers where they live is for a coordination point of view. So let's say your child is playing Fortnite and there is an event at a particular time, and everyone's like, oh, where do you live? And someone's like, I live here, I live here, I live here. And so everyone's trying to coordinate, where are we going to go for this particular event, or how are we going to meet at this particular place, whether it's Fortnite, it could be Minecraft, it could be Roblox, it could be any game in the freaking world. They may want to meet in a particular place and a particular time. And so a lot of gamers will say where they live. So tell your kids, you do not tell a stranger where you live. If you ever need to coordinate something with your online friends, just say, I'm in this time zone. You can just say your time zone. You can say, I'm in EST, I'm in CST, I'm in MDT, I'm in BT, I'm in whatever T, MT, whatever T zone you're in. Let your kids know. You can say your time zone, but never say your city, never say your location, never say anything like that. Also, personal matters mean not giving your actual name. So if you're setting up your child's account, make sure that they have a nickname, they have a gamer name, a gamer tag. Those are like personal information that you don't want other people to know. If they ever need to know something, you can figure things out. So that's what I will say when it comes to gamers, because we're talking about gamers in general right now. This is why I always say you don't need to know too much. You don't need to know more than your kids about online games. However, you do need to know something in order to make the safety information you give more relevant to your kids. And if you're ever like, how am I going to know if it's relevant? Talk to them. Be like, hey, I don't want you to tell someone where you live. Do you ever feel like there's a situation that you're going to go through when you're in an online game where you feel like it's really important, or you want to tell someone where you live? And then let them tell you something. And then maybe they'll say, yeah, I need to coordinate a time to meet with my online friends. How am I going to tell them? How are we going to figure out where to meet if they don't know where I live? And then you can say, oh, great. Thanks for letting me know that, Jane. Give them the time zone. Here's your time zone. Yeah, things like that. Just talk to them. Okay. So J.L. Van says, he doesn't discuss any personal matters, only gameplay. He doesn't divulge any personal information or private information. Even little pieces of information in combination can provide identifying facts. That's absolutely correct. Little pieces of information can do that. And so you have to sit down and be like, okay, what are we not going to do? Have a talk to your child to see exactly what is discussed and reiterate the rules of safe internet conversation. Again, I'm going to give a link for that. We're going to go into that. Even if you have said it many times before, it doesn't hurt to repeat yourself. It's very true. Children are immature and can make silly mistakes. Very true. But also, just as a human being, you're going to remember things that are consistently repeated. So also remember, everything you tell your kids, typically, if you keep on repeating it, becomes their inner thoughts. And so give them inner thoughts that you want them to have throughout their life. So if you want them to know something, you're going to repeat it, and you're going to repeat it in a way that allows them to be empowered by it and to make transformational choices in their life that's good for them in the long term. And so if you're telling them something, not only are you saying it once, you're repeating it. So internet safety conversation is not just like a one long lecture. It never should be a lecture. It should be a conversation. It could be a chat. It could be when you're washing dishes, when you're hiking, when you're walking, when you're whatever it is, when you're driving, a road trip, whatever it is, so that you're having those regular, normal chats and you check in every now and then and you say certain things. These are when most of the conversations are best, to be honest. Make sure your child, this is from JL again, knows that if somebody starts to be too friendly or sympathetic, are you annoyed at your parents, or similar leading questions, that may be a sign the person is trying to start a personal conversation. There is my English, which is off limits. Absolutely. So I like JL's response. And someone else said the same thing, as long as they didn't do personal information. And there's just some other things. It depends on situation. In-game voice chat is a very common part of games that have you interacting with other players online. Now, if he's talking with a complete stranger on a website, you weren't actually supervising him, I would make sure that doesn't happen again. Agreed. By itself, him talking to other people is fine. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's a green flag. I just would say it's a yellow. It's a yellow traffic light. It's a slow down. It's not a green. It's not a red. But people learning sensitive information about him in a household is where problems arrived. I would talk to him about a conversation to see if he blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, this is another thing I said. So let me not say blah, blah, blah. I'm not skimming it. I would talk to him about the conversation and see what he and the stranger talked about, and do it in a very casual way. And then engage in that conversation with your child. Be like, oh, that's cool. What did they say? Oh, that's interesting. What did you think about that? No, 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 no. If it was a part of a video game and he was talking strategy with the other player, then I see no problem with it. I agree. I would remind him not to give out his name or location and check in on him every now and then. I absolutely agree. Another thing I will say when it comes to the whole in-game voice chat, because that user brought that up and I thought that was actually brilliant, is that if your child is at the maturity level where you're allowing them to have a headset. So I have my own, like, where's my gaming headset? I have my little gaming headset over here with my mic. So there are certain gaming headsets that will come with a mic. Oops. Where are we? Okay. So I have a mic, but it's like detached. It's a detachable mic. And so if you're allowing your child to chat with strangers online and they're a little bit older, they're more mature, they're more responsible, and you're allowing them to chat with other people, you can get a mic that is detachable. So if they want to, they can detach that, and then mic is no longer there. Why am I saying this? I've been in situations where I was talking to other people in voice chats, and they had their little headphones set on, and they did not know that their mic was on. It was plugged in and it was actually on. And this person on the background, I heard it was either their parent or their partner, I cannot remember, it's been years since then, was ordering pizza. And they were telling the restaurant, hey, this is the pizza I want. That's totally normal, right? And then the person was like, what's the name for the order? And they said, oh, John Smith, the first and last name. And they're like, okay, what's your address? And they gave, I'm at 123 address at 123 at 123 state. That's what they said. And then they were like, okay, what's your card number? And they said card number 123456. And I got all of that information because someone was gaming online and they had their headset on. And so I've seen this happen many times over, not with that much detail, to be honest. In all the years I've been gaming, that was the one time it was that much detail. But there have been so many other circumstances where someone has said someone's full name. So let's just say someone needed to go to eat dinner and their partner was like, John Smith, John Delaware Smith, come down for dinner. You said you come for dinner. And they have a whole gamer name. Maybe their gamer name is like Mr. Pickles, okay? I don't know why I said Mr. Pickles. And then now everyone knows their full name. And so that has happened to a lot of kids around the world. So if your child is a little bit older, they're in high school, they're more mature, but you're allowing them to do that, get a headset that either has a detachable mic and it has to have a way where they can mute their mic. Like mine has like a mute on the end. I can like unmute and then mute. You need to have that for your child and tell them to do that so that if they're not talking, it will not pick up voices, or they can have something called push to talk. I'm not going to get into this entire conversation right now because I don't know, but you just need to have that. Especially if your child is in these in-game voice chats. That's a whole other conversation where I can get into it, but I did want to talk about it because it's very important. Okay. So there is this Wall Street Journal article that I wanted to go over with you because it's pretty cool. This is from Julie Jargon, which she's like, I love her. She's great. And she had this article titled "Why It's Mostly Okay for Kids to Talk to Strangers Online," and I wanted us to read it together. I actually did not read this article before, so we're reading it together for like the first time. Was all both of us together just reading this. Okay. All right. So she said, when my 10-year-old son recently encountered a young adult making rude comments in a game of Minecraft, he and his friends told the interloper to leave their world. When he didn't, my son exited the world, resulting in all the other players being booted. Then he blocked the man from ever playing with him again. Shout out to your 10-year-old, now 13-year-old son, Julie. That is amazing. So she said, when he told me, I wasn't horrified that he was exposed to strangers online. In fact, it provoked the feeling of pride. Why? Because it showed me that he's learning how to spot bad actors and how to deal with them. That's absolutely true. You should feel a sense of pride. When your child comes to you about a problem that they're having in a game or on social media or someone they met or with their friend, and it has to deal with social media, it has to deal with gaming, it has to do with any online piece, you should feel sometimes you're not going to feel pride, to be honest. This was easier to feel pride, but there are moments where you just give yourself a moment to be like, you know what? As difficult as this is, I'm happy that my child feels good enough to come to me. I'm happy that they feel safe enough to be able to have this conversation with me. Have that be one of your thoughts. It can't be the only thought depending on the situation, but have that as one of your thoughts. That's really good. And this is Wall Street Journal article that I'm also going to post here so that you have it. Okay, perfect. This wasn't the first time he came across a stranger saying or doing things he didn't like in a game, and likely won't be the last. It will never, ever be the last. He once blocked a teenager in another online game who shared what my son only described as an inappropriate photo of his girlfriend. He has blocked other players for swearing. That is very, very good. He was better than me at 10. First of all, I started playing at 13, but he was way better than me. I absolutely have blocked someone for sharing an appropriate picture. And there are moments where I didn't as a kid. I was just like, I just didn't. But there are moments that I absolutely did because I was like, I'm done with this. I've never blocked anyone for swearing because I started swearing at 9 years old. That was the whole problem in of itself. So I actually did not care about anyone swearing. But it is good if one of your values is no swearing, which I don't swear very often, but when I do, it's typically in an online game or if some other situation. But it is good for your child to block anything that goes against their personal values. So it could be swearing, it could be sharing an inappropriate photo, it could be sharing an inappropriate story, it could be them usually wanting to play a game outside of the game that they're in and they stop playing with that group of people because they always want to do a different activity than what they're actually doing. So whatever it is very, very good. So kudos to Julie's son. At first, I was uncomfortable letting my son play games with other people he's never met in person. Of course. Wouldn't it be better if he had never had to experience these incursions in the first place? But seeing how he handled them made me wonder, are we doing children a disservice when we lock everything down? That's a very good question. What do you think? Do you think we're doing children a disservice when we lock everything down? Are we better off giving them some sort of free reign and helping them develop the digital smarts to navigate the online world safely, knowing that we can probably pull back if necessary. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes. Depends on your child, right? Could it possibly be a good idea to let kids interact with strangers? To gut check myself, we all need to do gut checks. And to be sure I'm not steering readers wrong, I called several experts in online safety. They confirmed that there is a rethinking now of the conventional wisdom around stranger avoidance. And so much so that there are research papers that we're going to go through today so that you can understand the different wisdoms that are now coming out when it comes to allowing your kids to talk to strangers online. Okay. It's going to be a whole conversation. I really wanted to get everything in this live stream so that I can point more people to this conversation if ever needed throughout the years, because this is just this is ageless, to be honest. Okay. So, one expert says, I've been in this field since the mid 90s when the advice was don't talk to strangers online. In the 25 years since, the messaging has evolved and changed as the online world has evolved and changed. This is Stefan from the Fuzzy Institute. Fuzzy is amazing. I suggest that you look it up, Family Online Safety Institute. I went to their conference last year. It was great. It's for internet safety professionals, so it's not really for parents, but it's good if you want to go. As the line has blurred between our online and offline worlds, he said, experts are advising parents to weigh risk and rewards. It's about you as a parent helping your kids manage the risk in order to get the rewards of playing games online or meeting people on social media. The way to be risk-free is to disconnect all devices and switch off the router until they're 18, which is absolutely true. The only problem is, of course, if the longer you wait, that means that they're going to be making mistakes outside of your household without your guidance. And so they're going to be like on their own, most likely. And they're not going to feel comfortable talking to you about this subject because it was never brought up and you never had to deal with it. And so it's not even great to disconnect until 18, maybe 16. I would say 16 is the latest. I think 16 is great. But 18, but to be honest, it depends on your child and the maturity and their mental awareness. Okay. The way to be risk-free is to disconnect all devices and switch off the router until they're 18, but then you take away all the rewards. There are times when intervening on the kids' behalf or even shutting down is necessary, like when there's evidence of predators in their midst. As parents, we must remain vigilant about that, especially now when our kids are spending more time online than ever. My colleague Sarah Needleman recently wrote about an increase of reports of child exploitation through the coronavirus pandemic, which is true. The FBI said the same thing too. There was an increase in the pandemic. But a general rule to never talk to strangers online seems misguided and unrealistic as a rule to never talk to strangers in the real world. Absolutely, I agree. The entire internet is strangers. Unless your child is watching a YouTube video and they just leave the internet, then they most likely may not talk to a stranger. I don't know. Pre-pandemic, we interacted with strangers every day at the grocery store, in the park, in restaurants. It's how we interact that matters, experts say. I agree. Just like we tell our kids not to get into the car with or accept candy from a stranger, we should empathize with them to never reveal personal information to strangers online. That is absolutely true. So similar to this, and I don't know, maybe she's going to give this, maybe, I don't think she gave this correlation, but similar to how your child is interacting with a stranger at the grocery store, they're interacting with a stranger in a comment section. They're interacting with a stranger when they post a comment. They interact with a stranger when they are talking to someone in an online game. They're interacting with a stranger every single time they get on the internet. So it's a normal internet interaction when you're talking to a stranger. Patricia Vance, who's the president of the Entertainment Software Rating Board, ESRB, which is also really good if you're trying to figure out what ratings is good for your child in terms of, is it mature? Is it 13 plus, 16 plus, 17 plus? It's good for games and the like. Patricia says all friends start out as strangers. And if you look at it through that lens, what we're teaching our kids is to be respectful. And when they're not being treated respectfully, to use the tools at their disposal. The whole stranger danger movement did more to create anxiety in children than it did to protect them. This is Michael Rich from the director of Center on Media and Child Health at Boston's Children's Hospital. If you turn everyone you don't know into danger, you live in a pretty scary world. But also, if you turn someone everyone into danger, no one is danger, because now everything is danger. So they're not paying attention to actual danger. So they're tuning you out, like we talked about in the beginning of this live stream. If you keep saying everything is bad, then nothing's bad. The movement also masks a greater danger for children, which is that they are more likely to be abducted or assaulted by someone they don't know than a total stranger. That's also very true. Stranger danger is rooted in a highly publicized kidnapping cases of the 1980s and resurfaced again in the early internet days. These fears continue to shape how we parent and how we view technology. So, how do we go from our fears to prepare children? And increasingly, that's been increasingly online. So some experts reached out to suggested to take a graduated approach to allowing online interaction. With young children, parents might allow them to communicate only with adults and friends their parents know and trust. I agree. Definitely under 13 years old is when you want to do that with really young kids. So I would say, definitely under 13. FaceTiming grandparents or texting friends through a parent's phone or even using an app with the stringent safety features are ways to start. When kids are young, parents can limit who they're allowed to play with using parental controls in their gaming systems. I agree. Anytime your child has a game, just look at the gaming system, see do they have ways that you can restrict certain things when they're younger than a certain age, typically younger than 13. Then relax those controls as the kids get older and demonstrate maturity. The age of 10 to 12 is an opening period when the training wheels start to come off a little bit, and we go from using parental controls to using online safety tools. I absolutely agree. 10 to 12 is that opening period where you're slowly starting to like open up. So before the 10 to 12, it's like the most strictest, and then between 10 to 12, we're preparing for the 13 plus years. From 13 plus, the training wheels are basically almost off in terms of the way that you're approaching it with the severity that you're approaching it. From 13 plus, the training wheels are a little bit looser. It's like it's either gone or like super freaking loose. 10 to 12, I agree with him. That's when it starts to loosen up a little bit. I agree with that. So under 13. But again, you're the expert in your child. You know your child more than anyone else. It could be different for your particular child. It could be different for one child. Your eldest could be one thing, and then your middle child is different, and then your youngest is another one. It could be number 6 is different than number 3. Whatever it is, you know your child more. You're the expert more than anyone else is. Okay. The tools my son used involved the ability to immediately remove and permanently block players who weren't playing nicely. Although I'm proud of the way my son handled the situation, I don't have blind faith in his ability to make the best decision 100% of the time. I absolutely agree. He is, after all, still a good 15 years from having a fully developed prefrontal cortex, like we talked about in the beginning. His gaming consoles in the family room, another really great tip if you have kids that are gaming under 13 years old, especially. And honestly, sometimes under 16 years old, keep the gaming system in the family room. Once they get older, they're more mature, they start driving, they got their first job, they start making their money. Now they can have it in their personal room because they're a little bit more mature, they're more developed, they're more responsible, etc., whatever. But until then, family room, where we can hear him talking while he plays. My husband joins in random times. Also, another really great thing. Because it's in family room, you can hear what's going on, you can see what's going on, but also you can jump in to play with your child. The more that you engage with your child and the things that they do online, the more protected they will be. This is a fact. It's always going to be true. If you talk to them about what's happening and you have those moments where you're joining in and you're playing with them, then they are going to open up to you about the game. They're going to have better conversations about the game that they're playing, and you're going to understand more context than someone else. So please play with your children. If you can't play with your children on the online games that they're in, then when they talk to you about Roblox or Minecraft or whatever else they're playing, Fortnite, and listen to them, lean into the conversation, ask some questions. If they're not playing online games, and because I know we talked a lot about online games, but if they're on social media, see what pages they're follow, not like go into their following list, but ask them like who's like the influencer that you really like. Is there someone's channel or some certain topics that you really enjoy? What do you enjoy about it? So if they like cooking channels, be like, oh, okay, what certain cooking videos have you saved? Some of the cooking videos, maybe we can make it as a family, maybe we can make it a dinner thing. Like just engage with it. Make it a real thing, build connections through it, have conversations about it, the whole 9 yards. If they're not on social media, save videos you think they would like, watch it together as a family. all of the things. So her husband joins at random times, identify himself as the dad so he understands who my son is playing with, so the players know that there's an adult around. That's another great thing to do. Be like, hey, I'm so-and-so's mom. So-and-so as in gamer tags mom. So I'm Mr. Pickle's mom. And it's great to see y'all play this game. Have amazing fun. And keep it moving, just so they know I'm here. Okay. The experts offer some additional advice. So review the tech options. That's very, very good. Absolutely review the tech options. Never let your guard down. It's important to teach kids to consider online only friends as always being on probation. I like that. People who are good at grooming kids are sophisticated enough to bide their time and appear to be someone else until kids let their guard down. I like that. Your online friends are always on probation. Okay? You can always take the online friend card away. Stay on topic. In addition to teaching kids never to give out personal information, it's important to warn them against veering off topic in a game or in a social media post. And of course, a stranger who starts chatting about things of a more personal nature can be a red flag. And then don't go off platform. We mentioned this in the beginning. If someone asks your child to go on a one-on-one direct chat or a messaging service or a different game, whatever it is, where there's no moderation, you don't know the game, you don't know what you're downloading, that's a no-go. And then this is from, again, Julie Jargon at the Wall Street Journal. I suggest that you look for this article. This is really great. Okay. That was the first one. Okay. Then there is this study that I wanted to go over with you. Did I put this in the chat? Yeah, I did. Okay. So there's this study that I think it's perfect. It's amazing for this discussion. And it is, wait, let me share my screen. It's going over our whole conversation about stranger danger and your kids talking to strangers online. It's a great research paper. I will have to, okay, wait a minute. See. Okay, here it is. Okay, I found the link. I was like, oh my God, where is the link? Because I want you to be able to have the link so that you can look at the research study yourself. You can share it with friends. You can share it with family. You can see where I'm coming from, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so this is the study. It says stranger is not always danger. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. I just clicked that and then here we are. Okay, so stranger is not always danger. The myth and reality of meetings with online strangers. This is a great study. I think this is great. It's called Living Digital Age, blah, blah. Okay. We're going to skim all of this. We're going to skim all of this and we're going to look at some of the summary. Can't remember where this all starts. Unpleasant meetings with where are we? Okay, conclusion. Okay. So let's look at the conclusion and then we'll go back from there. Okay. Is this the conclusion of the whole thing? Yeah, okay, thank God. Because I was like, where's the actual thing? Okay. So conclusion. The aim of this chapter was to show that media portrayal depicting online strangers is widely inaccurate and in fact leads to undesirable consequences in the form of misguided advice and policies. So in the study, they asked kids, what do they think an online stranger looks like? And every single time the kid describes someone who is just some random person of what they saw on TV about what a stranger actually looks like. So that puts your child in danger when they're actually talking to strangers online because they don't think that they're talking to a stranger online. According to the empirical evidence by many studies presented in this chapter, most youths meeting with online strangers do not result in negative experiences. And when they do, there are no correspondence in the media's online peace scenario in absolute majority of cases. There's actually this mother who said her child wanted to meet a stranger online and how she handled that. Maybe I'll talk about her story at the end, but that goes into that. Okay. And when they do, okay, we already talked about that. In contrast to the media portrayal, meetings with online strangers typically happen in adolescence and not in childhood. Meeting strangers is a natural part of the development and social processes. We should not forget that we are all once strangers to our friends and partners, and we've all met a lot of strangers in our life. That was what the Wall Street Journal article was talking about as well. Where all friends start out as strangers. So telling your kid a blanket statement about not talking to strangers does not get into the heart of the problem. Again, there is a internet safety checklist from Love 146, which helps you protect your child from trafficking and that type of and people that are trying to groom your child. And there are certain red flags that your child can be aware of when they are having these interactions online. One social circle is constantly growing, especially in adolescence, because adolescents simply need other people to achieve their developmental goals. This is why meeting strangers rapidly increases during this life period. It's beneficial and developmentally appropriate. Okay, they said we're gonna make these statements that are like woo, and this is why also advising youth not to meet strangers online or offline by default is dubious. Therefore, parents should acknowledge that at some age, adolescents, it is normal that their offspring wants to meet new people because the internet is now a natural part of their lives. Children might utilize this environment for this purposes as well and not depend solely on the physical world. Let me know what you think. Parents should let their children know that under some conditions, while taking safety measures, meeting people from the internet can be allowed and will not result in restrictions or punishments in form, for example, of limited internet access. Stating the opposite that, okay, I actually agree with this. I actually 100% agree with this statement right here. We're going to keep going and then I'll tell you why I agree with it. Okay, stating the opposite might lead youth to hide planned meetings from parents and consequently increase the potential risk. Further, it is important to encourage youth to leave the meeting if they do not like the other person. Okay. So I agree with this full statement here right here. The reason being is because you always want your child to communicate with you. If you ever give your child any hints without coming back and saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I just realized what I said may feel like this and that's not what I meant." That's fine. You're human, you make mistakes. But if you continuously have conversations with your kid about internet safety that makes them feel like I cannot talk to my parents, they will not talk to you. So it's not you can do whatever you want. You can take away their internet. I have had parents who said they have taken away their child's internet and their child was on the internet. They use their neighbor's internet. You can use parental controls and your child will use a VPN or they'll use something else. So they'll do some weather trick on their mobile phone in order to circumvent that. You can say you're locking down their entire phone and they'll use their friend's phone. So when they're at their cousin's house or their whatever's house, they're using their phone to communicate. You have kids that are, when you're at Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it is, whatever holiday you're on, Eid, you're in Hanukkah, and you're visiting friends, you're visiting family, they're using other people's devices and communicating with people there. So never feel like you have everything on lockdown, you can control everything. So this is why you want to say, hey, if you want to meet someone that you met online, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk about that. And even though no matter how scared, no matter how worried, no matter how much you want to throw up, you want to scream, you want to do whatever in that particular moment, it's so important for you to be cool, calm, and collected and tell your kid if they ever meet somebody online and they want to meet them in person, that you can have a sit down conversation about it. And you will not be mad at them. You will not think that they're not worthy. You're not going to be disappointed in them. You're not going to take away their devices because they want to meet somebody. The more you can lean in and ask questions to be like, okay, where did you meet the person? What did they say? How did you connect? What do you feel about this person? Is there anything they said that made you feel uncomfortable? Just keep going and going and going and asking questions and gathering information and having honest conversations with your kids. Because like they said in this research paper, if you don't do that, your child is going to become sneaky and they're going to go around you and meet that person without your knowledge. You want to be there. So you can say, hey, we can all meet that person. I've had a parent, and I'll tell the story here right now because it's relevant before I forget, because we're going to go on to something else. But they had their child come to them and say, hey, I met someone online. We've been talking for months now. We've become best friends, and I want to meet them in person. Now, the mother went through all of the emotions you would go through as a mother. She had to take a couple deep breaths. She had to have that conversation with her child, honestly, with herself, and then sat down with her kid and said, okay, well, let me know more about this girl. Like, where did you meet her? What happened? And so her child said, hey, I met her on an online game where we like the same anime. We like the same things. Like we like the same artists. We listen to the same music. Like we just really connected over different things and we were the same age. And so what this parent did was said, okay, you know what? Let's all meet her on Skype. Tell your friend, is it okay if she can get her parents on Skype and we can all meet each other like a family, and then we can meet on the park? And then she said, okay. So she went back, she talked to her friend, And she said, hey, look, I want all of us, like my parents want to meet your parents on a Skype call. Do you feel comfortable doing that? And then the girl was like, yeah, that's totally fine. Ended up being, thankfully, this did not become a CNN news story or some headline, right? Thankfully, it actually was a little girl across the world, not across the world, but I think it was like maybe 2 states down. They were in the United States. And this is a girl telling me this. She's grown up, got married, had kids, the whole thing. She's like, I think in her early 40s now or something. But she was telling me the story from when she was younger. And she was like, no, I don't think she's in her 40s. I think she's like in her 30s. But anyways, and she was saying, so she met the girl, her and her parents and the girl that she met online and their parents met together on Skype, and they had a conversation. Ended up being that it was a regular family and it was a regular girl, and they talked for about an hour, and their parents got to meet each other with the kids and without the kids, and they had a long conversation, and they decided to meet at two points between their states, so like equal distance. So let's just say there was like 200 miles between them, and they said we'll meet at between the 100-mile point between both of us. That's what they did. They met at a park, they had a lot of fun, and they remained friends for a very long time. So things like that can happen. Not all news stories are like that. There are certain news stories that are worse than that, the worst outcome you could possibly imagine. And so those things can happen as well. But the point is, no matter what happens, you're there and you're having those conversations with your child. Otherwise, they're not going to talk to you. So that is what the research study is saying. Because if there's a red flag, not if, excuse me, when there's a red flag, when they come across somebody that does not mean well, that is trying to groom them, you can have that red flag and you go, you know what? Because of these points, because of this, because of that, didn't that make you feel uncomfortable? This is not someone that you want to meet because of X, Y, and Z. And you can have that conversation with them. But remember, have the conversation, talk to them, don't shame them, don't make them feel like you're going to love them less. Don't do that whole 9 yards. Okay. This is the research paper goes on to say fear about strangers also leads to another consequence. It inherently makes children and youth believe that meeting familiar people is without risk. That's true. Debates about dangers of meeting online strangers implicitly suggest that meeting with people not fitting into the online stranger label is safe. So, meeting an online friend, meeting someone connected to offline life, for example, or a friend of a schoolmate. However, negative meetings with other people are not a new phenomenon that is developed in the invention of internet for complete strangers are to blame. Yes. And then I think there's a research, I think this is the research study that talked about what kids view as a stranger. I'm going to try to skim this to find that particular part. Yeah. So anyways, we're going to get into that. Okay, so they said in some of their samples and negative experiences for meeting online strangers by adolescent girls, the unpleasant feelings in most cases seem to be based on discrepancies between expectation and reality. And also, you don't know who you're meeting, and that's a whole other thing. Let me skim this because there was another thing that I wanted to go into. Because they talked about how kids think of strangers looking a certain way, but they actually don't look a certain way, so they feel like, oh, that's not a stranger. Oh, okay. There's this. Okay, so what is it? Okay, there are reasons why the stranger danger rhetoric is problematic. One, it's not clear who constitutes as a stranger. According to McBride, 2005, when asked about stranger, children tend to describe him or her as someone who's ugly or mean. That's exactly what I want to do. Someone who is ugly or mean. So, in other words, children do not consider friendly people to be strangers that they fear. So, when you say don't talk to strangers or you talk about stranger danger, they're not going to think that someone who's pretty to them, someone who is friendly as someone they should fear, because strangers has this big like connotation to it. So that's why it's problematic. Similarly, when children know the person from somewhere, they may stop perceiving the person as a stranger and therefore as a danger. Somewhere in this instance might be the neighborhood, school, or simply repeatedly seeing someone on the street. This is very true. This is how people are able to get to children, because they're consistently where they know them to be. They're in a school, they're in a neighborhood, they're in a college, they're in a group. They have they from the same family, same friend group, and so they stop seeing that person as a stranger. Okay. And the slogan also ignores the stranger danger slogan, also ignores the facts that child abuse in that vast majority of cases is not actually a stranger, but someone that they know. So the stranger danger advice fails to address the real problem. So once again, youth are taught to fear someone while ignoring the fact that this specific someone represents only a very rare danger. And also, this is another thing that I want to talk about. Yes, this study. So, for example, in the European Grooming Project, Webster 2012, adolescents were asked to describe an online groomer. Their answers covered characteristics, and please listen very closely to these characteristics because when someone does not appear like this, your child does not see them as a stranger. They do not see them as a danger. This is why you have to have more particular conversations about it. So they described the characteristics as old, creepy, fat, bold, or bald. I think they meant to say bald, but maybe they said bold. Mentally disturbed, sweaty, wearing big, thick glasses, and more similarly stereotypical glasses. So probably maybe not my glasses, maybe my glasses. I don't know. Is mine big and thick glasses? Something like that. But these are what they considered to be characteristics as someone who is a danger. The problem is that at the same time we implicitly teach them that they can trust everyone who does not fit this profile. By spreading the online P stereotype, I'm trying to be good for YouTube, okay, but you can see what's on the screen. We tell them that to be aware of online strangers because they're creepy, P acting as peers. So there's another research study conducted, and they interviewed youth about their experiences about meeting online strangers. Here's an expert from one of the interviews conducted through an instant messenger of a 15-year-old girl who met several boys from the internet. Whew, oh my God. Okay. So the interviewer said, "And did you think about the potential dangers of meeting when you did not know the guy?" The girl says, "No, not really. That never happened to me. It was always absolutely okay because I saw them on webcam." Interviewer: "And when you saw them and talked to them online prior to meeting, then you thought it was safe?" The girl said, "Yeah, I did. Because I was certain that they're not old who would." This girl clearly had heard of the dangers of online predators who might use the internet to search for children, and she assumed that meeting with verified peers was danger-free because they're verified peers and they're of her age. So she was not thinking that someone who could be her age, someone who could be relatively attractive, could actually be somebody who is actually somebody who could be after her. I did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but this is a conversation you might want to have with your kid. Like, hey, if someone appeared like this and this on the video, could they be a predator? Why would they be a predator? Why wouldn't they be a predator? Allow them to understand what is a predator and what is not because of what they look like, but also because of what they do or how they make them feel. So I'm not going to go too deep into this entire study. This is a little bit older, so I didn't want to go into all of these statistics because I don't think that really matters for this particular thing, because this, I believe, was in 2015. So that's pretty old for getting that type of statistics. But I did want to take from that particular study because that's really important. Okay. So there's another story I want to share. And then after this, we're going to go into some tips on protecting your kids who talk to strangers online, because that is very important. Like I said, talking to strangers is not a green thing. It's not a green traffic light and it's not a red. It is a yellow, and you just need to know how to deal with it. So this is from a Huffington Post article. And they said this is a dad who's 8-year-old, very, very, very young, but there's a lot of 8-year-olds that are online. Spoke to a stranger online for 6 months and shares the lessons that he learned. This is from Sarah Sparry, and this is in 2018. Okay. So make sure this is big enough. Okay, perfect. So they said a dad who had taken steps to protect his 8-year-old daughter when she played online games was shocked to discover that she has been speaking to a stranger for 6 months. Tony Charrington says he now knows that it is vital to talk to children about online dangers after he learned his daughter was being groomed via an online video game called Roblox, which describes itself as the #1 gaming site for teens. Again, if you have teens that are on Roblox, I made a video on how to protect your kids on Roblox. And inside of the video, on the description of the video, I gave you settings where you can use to turn off the chat that is on Roblox. So that is a video that I did. I just linked it in the chat. Back to the story. We gave our daughter a tablet with confidence that I had locked it down so nothing inappropriate could happen. I could control the router and see what was going on in and out, and we had a firewall in place. We were fairly well protected. One particular night when I was putting her to bed, I picked up her tablet and suddenly realized that one of the characters was talking to her by message. When I asked who that was, she just replied, "No, that's my friend, Daddy." So I asked if that was a character in the game or one of her friends from school. She said, "I don't know, Daddy." Sherrington continued, "We started talking. Once my alarm had been raised, I started digging into the history. It turned out she'd actually been talking to this guy for nearly 6 months. This is her 8-year-old child. After looking at his daughter, his 8-year-old child's conversation history, Sherrington discovered this stranger was a man in his 30s who had a particular interest in how old his daughter was and whether she was at school. Those are obviously red flags. I mean, any man like talking to a child like that is a red flag, but in particular his interest in whether or not she was at school. He said there was nothing inappropriate in that way, but it was inappropriate. So it wasn't explicitly inappropriate, but it was implicitly inappropriate. Okay, I'm taking out certain words because of YouTube. In response to Charrington's experience, a Roblox spokesperson said, "Providing a safe space environment for our users is our utmost priority. All games must comply with the rules of conduct." They continued, "Parental involvement is crucial to a fun and safe experience. To that end, we have created extensive parental controls on our guides and detailed parental guide that provides information to help create a Roblox experience." I leave that link in the comments if you want that. Charrington spoke with HuffPost UK after NSPCC released figures earlier this week showing that there have been more than 3,000 recorded cases of inappropriate communications with a child in the first year since a new law enabled police to charge adults with this crime. Okay, so according to the research collected by sending Freedom of Information requests, 7% of children age 11 to 16 had shared an image with somebody online that they met. So Sherrington said that the man talking to his daughter had asked her for a photo. So that is explicitly something that has happened. But she did not send him one. And that he didn't report the incident to the police as he didn't think it was a criminal offense because the communication was not that particular inappropriate in nature. Obviously it was inappropriate, but I'm mincing the words because of Google, but you can see it on the screen. She said that he was not surprised by the figures. "I think it's just a tip of the iceberg. We didn't report it because," he was like, "how many other people is this happening to?" Okay. So Charrington says he now takes a different approach to protecting his daughter online, one that proactively involves her. Again, that's why I always say that having parental controls and having one conversation with your child is never going to be enough. You have to have proactive conversation. This is not his fault this has happened. It's not his daughter's fault this happened. There's no fault. There's only what do we do moving forward? How do we protect your child when they're on these online games? How do we lock it down, especially when they're such a young age, younger than 13? He said he would advise other parents to talk to their children about online safety and teach them how important it is to tell their parents about anyone who tries to communicate with them. It's very, very important to engage. You have got to talk to your children. It's something that you cannot pay lip service to. And I absolutely agree, Tom Sherrington, I think his name's Tom, absolutely agree. And that's why we're having this discussion. So, and to that end, there is this resource that I want to share so that you can have better conversations with your kids. The first one is from Common Sense Media. Common Sense Media helps parents with all different parts of your digital parenting journey. This is not an ad, but I'll probably do an ad with them later. But in this link, I'm going to share this link. There's something on the side. This is for teachers, by the way. So if you're a teacher, if you're in education, feel free to look at this. But if you're not in education and you're a parent, you can scroll down to the end of the page. I just put the link in the chat. You can scroll down to the end of the page, and there's something called Family Tips. And then there's an SEL conversation start. Okay, family tips. You can do English, open. Okay. And then there's another one where you can share that as well. Okay, cool. Perfect. So, let me share this tab instead. This is really great, and I want you to use it for your kids. Okay. So, Help Kids is called Help Kids Make Friends and Interact Safely Online. It says so much of kids' social lives happen online, whether they're texting with a with a study group, flirting on social media, voice chatting on game platforms. Middle and high schoolers can learn how to communicate in safe and healthy ways. Again, this is when your child is above the age of 13 years old. But especially if they're just talking to strangers online, period. Like it doesn't really matter. Have this discussion with them. So these are 4 tips. Actually, I will share this particular link as well if you want this particular link. There it is. Okay, perfect. Okay. So they said, here are the 4 tips that you want to do. And I suggest that just look at these. Okay. So give them the right words. Kids learn about appropriate verbal and physical communication from watching you. But online conversations can be invisible. Occasionally narrate as you're writing text or social media comments when your kids are in earshot. Or just tell them, hey, if someone says something, this is how you deal with it. Or ask them, how would you deal with it? What would you say? And if you feel like there's any room to improve what they would say, then do that. Learn about their world. So tweens and teens have unique communication styles, especially online. As much as possible, keep an eye on what they're saying or doing online to understand the norm in the world. Don't police everything they say. That's very, very important. But please keep an ear out for aggressive trash talking, hate speech, rude images, or anything hurtful. Very, very, very important. If you see stuff that crosses the line, speak up and have a conversation. Very casual, tell me more type of conversation. Kids need to understand their words have consequences, and so you can show them some of the consequences by news stories, articles, videos, etc. Or TV shows. Another TV show that's good is Undercover Underage. You can watch that with your kids. That can give them a lot of context about the stranger danger and talking to strangers online as well. But stranger danger in the healthy way and not the way that we've been talking about it. To be honest, we should just take it from our vocabulary, but whatever. Okay. Empathize with the pressure to overshare. Empathize is like a very, very good term right here. Empathize is like what you should be doing all the time. Tweens and teens might feel pushed into sharing photos for different reasons: a dare, a fear of damaging a relationship, or just because everyone else is doing it or because they want to. But this one is a non negotiable. Tell them that you understand how bad it could feel to disappoint their friend or how they may want to, but then helping them navigate or imagine how much worse it would feel if a private picture was shared with their entire school. And then, of course, with this conversation, tell them that you will not feel any less, you will not feel you're not going to love them any less if you find out that they shared something. Even if something goes on, their life is not going to be completely over. You just want to be mindful of the consequences that can happen, what people can do with them, and the very, very real reality of sharing photos. That's very important because you don't want your child to get in a situation where they have done it, but now they feel like they can't come to you, they can't talk to you because you're going to shame them, you're going to blame them. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. Of course, and this is one of the most important points that I love very much that they put in here: develop their instincts. So help kids learn to trust their guts so they can suss out creepy, risky, or otherwise unsafe online situations. So you can play act a few scenarios. What if someone asks you to take a conversation private? What if someone asks you for your phone number? What if someone invites you to a private chat room? Be aware that some kids, even good kids, especially good kids, all kids, there's no such thing as good kids, by the way. There are no such thing as bad kids and good kids. They're just kids. Okay? They're just human beings, and they have moments and they don't have a moment in a particular moment. They're just kids. Will explore iffy stuff online out of curiosity, but the minute they feel uncomfortable, they need to shut things down. And there's an app, I believe, by Harvard that helps you have those conversation talks with your kids, which is really good. Okay, so this is really good, and I want to share this as well. So this is the Family Conversation Starter. This is very, very good. I highly suggest that you look at this conversation starter with your kids to have that conversation. So talk about how your child can stay safe when chatting with others online. So your child is learning strategies to help them make responsible decisions when they're online. So you can use these questions to talk with them about the benefits and risks of chatting with people online. So this is, again, from Common Sense Education. Ask these 3 questions. I hear you are talking in class about how you can be safe when talking to people online. What are some of the risks of talking with people you don't know well? And then listen for or suggest if needed. You don't fully know who you're talking to, so don't completely trust them. You don't know whether they have bad intentions. Then ask, what are the red flag feelings? So, is there something that's a red flag feeling? You can listen for or suggest. A red flag feeling is when something happens on digital media that makes you feel uncomfortable, worried, sad, or anxious. You have those conversations with your kids so they know what a red flag feeling is. It's often a feeling in your stomach. Is an amazing This is an amazing explanation. Comment says education like +1 on that. Feeling in your stomach that is something wrong and a warning of a possible problem. And then the third thing you can say is, what can you do if you ever have a red flag feeling when chatting with someone online? So you can say you slow down, you pause, you think about how you're feeling and what might be causing it. And you can decide on the best action to take to improve the situation, or maybe ignore or block the person, log off, or tell a trusted adult. That is a great way to deal with red flag feelings and not knowing what to do when your child is in that particular situation. They have those stop, think, decide, that type of thing. Teach them this, tell them that, and model good emotional regulation for your child. And this is why I always say that healing and therapy is very important to protecting your child online, because it helps you have difficult conversations with your child, but also it helps your child have a model of how to deal with their emotions in difficult situations as they grow up. Another thing that I believe is really important is this Love 146 list on internet safety for your kids. This is another great thing that you should do with your conversation with your kids when you're talking to strangers online. And they have a list where it's like 5 internet safety rules and thumb. The reason why I love this is because they use GIFs, they use like normal language. I really love the way that it's developed. And I've shared this before on my Instagram, but I want to share it again. So let's see. This is great. These are regular tips. I'm going to skip these tips. These are good tips, but I want to go in particular to the 8 red flag phrases. So as your child is communicating with people online, as scary as that is, you want them to have some red flag phrases that are either exactly these phrases or things that are very, very similar to it, because obviously it can't always be exactly this, but it has a very similar idea to it, okay? So, how do you know when someone has bad intentions or is just being really friendly? Again, this is a list that I suggest you go over with your child together. Here are some signs that you can watch out for when you're talking to someone. So, number 1, someone says, "Hey, DM me, let's go private." So, leaving the comment section or a public thread or a group, whatever conversation, and talking on a private messaging app, even if it's Discord where everyone's in a Discord chat and then you go into a private Discord chat. Again, if your child's on Discord, go to my YouTube channel. And I have a video on how to, you're on YouTube right now watching it. So go to my video on how to protect your kids on a Discord. Even if it's like a particular DM Discord chat, you can say, "Hey, no, that's not something I want to do," or you can disable certain things. Okay. I have a whole video on what you can do if your child is on Discord. And make sure you're subscribed for more videos on like protecting your kids online. All right. So the second one is, are you alone? That's another red flag. Are you alone? Are your parents there? Is anyone in the house? Someone may ask if you're alone to send you content that they wouldn't want your parents or other people seeing. They may also want you alone to get you to share more pictures or information. If someone you don't know specifically is seeking out ways to talk to you in private, be very careful. It's okay to end a conversation or block someone that makes you feel uncomfortable. And again, if they don't know what uncomfortable means, like we just went through with common sense education, it's that feeling in your stomach, it's that worry, it's that anxiety, it's that sadness, it's something that makes you feel uncomfortable. If someone says, "Send me a face pic, send me a picture of you, I want to see what you look like. Oh my God, you sound like you could be really cute. I'm pretty sure you're cute. Send me a picture." Whatever that is, there are some pictures that seem harmless to share with someone you trust. But once you share a photo with someone, you can't always control who else they share it with, and you don't know who you're sharing it with either. Pictures may also communicate more information than you intend to. For example, a photo of you and your friends at your volleyball tournament can tell someone where you go to school, and they can track you down just by that. We had that conversation with how to protect your kids from people online that are trying to prey on them. So that's a whole other conversation. You don't know what a picture says. Also, facial recognition, they can put your picture on a site, they can put it on Google, and they can find similar pictures, and they can figure out more information about you and your family. just by one picture of you. So be careful. Another one is you seem sad. What's bothering you? Or I saw you post something online and you said you were sad. Or you seem a little bit down today. Your voice is like a little bit changed. Like, what's going on? What's happening? While we all enjoy having someone to offer a listening ear, while it can be helpful for you to talk about what you're going through, it also gives the other person a chance to learn about your thoughts and your private life. It's possible that the person is asking personal or seemingly caring questions to find out ways to take advantage of you, or honestly, to get closer to you, to have more personal conversations, and then become your friend by being there for you and then taking advantage of you later and making you feel uncomfortable, but you feel like, oh, it's totally fine. Right. So those are the things that you want to talk to your kids about when you're having this conversation. Another one is, I know a way you can earn money fast. This can be being they're like, oh, you can become an influencer of this. I can manage you. You seem really cute. You can be similar to like people walking in the mall saying, oh, wow, you could be a model. They do the same exact thing online. They look through Instagram photos, TikToks. Oh, you can be a TikToker. You can be a dancer. You could be a model. You could be whatever it is, an influencer. And so they'll say, I know there's ways you can earn money fast. So anyone offering you a way to make money fast should probably not be trusted. It's a good idea to avoid getting caught up in dealing with money with someone you do not know, especially if it includes sending photos of yourself or talking on a webcam. Even if it sounds like what they're asking you to do is not a big deal, it's probably smart to avoid these situations altogether. And as you're going through this list with your kids, you can ask them like, hey, have you ever came across this? Has someone ever asked you this question? Just so that you can drum up a conversation and you can tell them what to do afterwards. 6, what's your number? Text me. Where do you live? Blah, blah. And even if sometimes your child may be in a situation where even if they say no, the person's pressuring them, and always tell your child, if someone pressures you, if they're ignoring your boundaries and they just keep going on, then that means that they do not care about you and they're just going to keep on going. So not only does giving someone your phone number create an opportunity for them to build more trust and false sense of intimacy, a phone number can reveal your location, oftentimes your home address. Another person saying, hey, I love you. Everyone hears the words I love you, but sometimes, or excuse me, everyone enjoys hearing it. Some people, but sometimes people will use this to make it feel safe to do things that you may not otherwise do. That is very true. They're going to be like, hey, I love you. I really like you. Oh my God, we're like bestest of friends. I love hanging out with you. You're like the best person. That's crazy. Whatever it is to make you feel connected to them. And so that they feel like, oh, now I can say or do anything and it's okay because it's under the guise of being your friend or being someone who's flirting with you or someone who likes you. Another is, if you don't do what I ask, I'll show everyone the pictures you sent me. This is a really, really big one. We've had many different cases where kids have shared photos and the person said, hey, if you don't do what I ask, I'm going to share with other people. And that became a situation where the person felt like they no longer could be on this world because they could not face the shame of someone having their photo and everyone in their school and their parents and everyone knowing that they sent this photo. So as someone who learns more and more about you, they might threaten to reveal a private photo, your parents, or tell your parents about something you've shared if you don't do what they ask. Even if you're afraid of what they might think, tell a parent, a teacher, or another adult right away. If someone's trying to intimidate you, it's better to stop the threats. And this is the moment, if you're going through the list with your child, where you tell them that no matter what happens, no matter what you do, I'm not going to love you less. I'm not going to think of you less. I'm not going to, et cetera, et cetera. I'm always going to love you. I'm always there for you. Everyone's human. Mistakes happen. It's okay. I'm not going to think less than you. No, 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 no. All of that is very, very important in this particular circumstance because you do not want them to go through something without your knowledge and they feel like I cannot come to them. And then there is a whole conversation about sending photos and what to do in this entire thing. I'm not going to go into this because that's going over, that's a little bit over the topic today. But if you have kids that are in their teenage years and you believe that they may be doing this, or maybe not, to be honest, even if you think, oh, it's never my child or whatever, still go through this conversation with them. It's very, very important. But I'm going to leave it alone for right now. Okay. So then here's another section that you can go with your kids is like what to do if someone's making you feel uncomfortable. First, never agree to do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. You're in charge of your life. Even if another person seems to be a friend, they're no friend Please drill this into your child's brain over and over and over and over and over and over again. As adults, we need this to be drilled into us over and over and over again, but especially your children, and they need to have it well into adulthood. It matters, it matters, it matters. I don't care. It always matters. Please keep repeating it. Even if the other person is a friend, they are not your friend if they try to get you to do something against your will or against your best interest. If something feels off, trust your gut instincts. Okay. So always trust your gut instinct. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how crazy it sounds, doesn't matter like, oh, I don't like it. If you don't like it and your gut feels like, nope, I don't want to do it, do not do it. When it comes to somebody that you're talking to online, don't do it. You do not have to have a reason. You do not need to know any particular reason why, oh, why I shouldn't do it, because it doesn't matter. You don't like it. You don't want to do it. Do not do that. Please drill that into your child so that they have that and they know that this applies to even offline as well, but especially when it comes to online things. So if you want more information about protecting your kids online, I have so many videos on my YouTube channel about how to protect your kids in digital age. And I have a particular one about stranger danger. I don't know if I have, oops, no.
Is a new title.
I don't know if I have it here, but there's a couple of ones that I did about stranger danger. Yeah, here it is. Stranger danger is a myth and why it doesn't work online. So if you want more videos like that and you're looking for protecting your kids online, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, ask any questions that you want in the comments below, tag someone that you know would need to see this live stream. And if there's something that I glazed over that you're like, oh, can you pay a little bit more attention to that? Or can you talk about this particular topic? Or I saw this news story. Can you cover that? Always feel free to put it in the comments below. Message me on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram. I am at CyberFareedah on Instagram. And I always try to look at my DMs to see like, hey, did I miss something? What's going on, etc., etc. Let me see, where is my Instagram? Share this Instagram page. Okay. So that is my Instagram. You can message me on Instagram. I will talk to you. And I also have another video about not talking to strangers online and what to tell your children instead of saying don't talk to strangers online. That is a pinned video for now. I will keep that video up. If it ends up not being pinned when you're watching this video, that's fine. It's still there. Just go to the Reels tab and it will be under the Reels tab right here. And I have a bunch of Reels on helping you protecting your kids online. So that is it for now. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, bye.